Hello, good morning, everybody. We're live here from the birdhouse. It is Saturday, October 19th, and as you can tell from my background here, we are in the season of fall and we are getting towards that peak foliage. So I thought I today could show you not only the birds you can expect to have in your backyard this fall and this time of the year, but how to best attract them to your yard and keep them coming. So we'll talk today about the fall birding basics. As always, we love to know who's on. You can say hi in the comments. If you have any questions, throw those in there too. And we love to know what kind of things you're seeing. So if you have any kind of bird sightings, absolutely throw those in there because we want to know what everybody's getting in their backyards. But we have a couple things going on here with the store this weekend. First of all, if you are in the Rochester area, we have Birds of Prey from Wild Wings coming today. They'll be here in an hour, so they're going to be here today from 11 till 1, and they usually bring at least a few different birds and kind of cycle them out throughout the day. So if you are around, absolutely stop by and check out the birds from Wild Wings that will be here today. That is until 1 p.m. So they'll be here in an hour. And then also tomorrow, we will have a booth at the market over at Birdhouse Brewing. They have their Hobson 5K Give Cancer the Bird fundraiser going on tomorrow. And they are expecting a lot of runners. Apparently, they have over 650 people. 650 runners already signed up. And so it should be a really fun event. We will be there tomorrow at their market. So come by, say hi, and participate in the fundraiser. It's a really great fundraiser. So that is in Honeoye. That is our friends over at Birdhouse Brewing. We will be there tomorrow. So stop on in for that too if you happen to be around. They're going to have live music. They have a great menu. And we'll be there until about 2 o'clock or so. We'll see how the day goes. But getting into the fall birding in general here in Western New York, this area just in general all year round is always a really great place for birding and for bird watching. And the species vary depending on the season, as we all know with migration. So some of the birds that we have here right now, you wouldn't have seen 4 months ago. So those species can vary depending on the time of the year. But in October alone, you can still see over 200 different species in this area. So we're in a really good place for bird watching. Not all of those 205 species will come to your backyard, but you can still get a pretty good diversity. And I'll show you how you can do that. It's just kind of the same basics that we talk about all the time, providing some kind of food, water, and shelter. So that doesn't change much throughout the time of the year. It's more how you provide those things that can change. So first of all, there's water, and water is one of the easiest things that you can do to provide for birds in your backyard. As far as water goes, as it gets colder though, it starts to freeze. So things that you used to have in the spring and summer might not be totally suitable for this time of the year. But if you have a bird bath, we always talk about moving water will help attract more birds. So if you've got one of these solar fountain inserts, that can keep the water kind of unfrozen and moving for a little bit longer throughout the season. But as it gets even colder and we start to get frost and it starts to freeze overnight, what you might want to look into is getting a heated bird bath, which are a thing. There's no such thing as a solar heated bird bath yet, but as the technology with solar panels gets better, hopefully something will be developed. But at this point, they're all plug-in. So the heated bird baths, you can get a totally enclosed heated bird bath, like on the left here, this picture with the blue jays. That is a bird bath that has the heating unit completely enclosed inside of it. It operates on a thermostat, so it doesn't run continuously. It just runs enough to keep the water unfrozen. So it will click off once the water gets to a certain temperature, something in the high 30s. It'll click off and then it'll start again once the water starts to cool. So it doesn't make the water hot. It just keeps it so it doesn't freeze over. So those are really great. We also have little heaters that you can put in your bird bath. Some of them operate on a thermostat, some of them don't. We always recommend the ones that operate on a thermostat so they're not just running continuously. If they are running continuously, that can just make the water evaporate faster. So as far as your time and the energy bill, it's worth it to get the more expensive ones that are on a thermostat because they're not going to run continuously. So if you have a bird bath that's made out of plastic or metal, something that can be left out all winter, not anything ceramic, you can put one of these heated bird bath units or bird bath heaters inside of your bird bath, and that will keep the water unfrozen also all season long. So those are options right now. We do have those out in the store. We've got them on our website. You can check them out there as well on thebirdhouseny.com. And as soon as you walk into the store, we have them right there for you to check out. So we do have quite a few of them here. Then as far as shelter goes, nesting season is over. The birds aren't nesting yet, although birds of prey start quite early in the season, and they will start pairing up and nesting sometimes as early as January. Birds like great horned owls start super, super early. But as far as songbirds go, some of the more typical birds that you would have in your backyard nesting, they're not really going to start again until April. So although they're not using nest boxes, sometimes they will use them for roosting. So you can always keep your nest boxes up. I would recommend cleaning them out if you haven't yet. This time of the year, it's a great time to clean them out. The birds aren't really using them for the nesting. If anything, they're just staying in there, going in there to stay out of the elements. So we have a couple different things that are good for this time of the year. We have what are called roosting pockets. These are little woven huts, basically, that the birds will go into to stay out of the rain and the snow and the cold, the wind, all of that. They're just a little way for them to have some protection. People put these in trees and shrubs, or you could probably even hang them from a shepherd's hook, but something that's more in a protected area is usually good. Just again, to make them even a little bit more out of the elements is perfect. These tend to be a little bit too small and too shallow for birds to nest in, although we have been getting reports of wrens nesting in them, which isn't all too surprising. But you can put these out this time of the year as a place, as a nice little place for the birds to stay out of the elements. And then we also have what are called roosting houses. So these look kind of like bird houses. The big difference is that they have perches inside of them. And the birds can go in here. You can get multiple birds, multiple species going in here at a time. They will go in there. They'll perch on the little sticks that are inside there, the little perches, and they'll just hang out, and again, just out of the elements. And it's a nice enclosed spot for them to warm up and stay dry. We have them in a couple different sizes. We have one that's on the left here. This is more of a typical kind of nest box size. In fact, you can convert it to a nest box for the spring. You can take those perches out. You can flip that door over and make it into a nesting box come March or April. And then we also have these larger roosting houses like this one on the right here that's longer and wider, and it has much longer perches in it and will hold more birds. So this isn't really going to be something used for nesting in the spring because it's a little bit too big. But that being said, you never know, you might get a wren or something rogue like that will use it as a nesting box. But in general, these long boxes here on the right are more just for roosting in the winter months. But bird feeding is really going to be the best way to get the most diversity of birds all year round, giving them some kind of food, because as far as nest boxes go, in the spring, you're only going to get one species using them at a time. That does change in the fall and winter. Multiple species will use them. They're not as territorial. They'll kind of cuddle in there together. But if you're bird feeding, that'll give you the biggest diversity of birds. And right now you might see big flocks of birds coming through your yards. We're still getting reports of people getting blackbirds, things like red-winged blackbird especially, are still coming to people's feeders. In general, they are on their way back down south, although some people do get red-winged blackbirds in the wintertime. I have seen them here in the winter months, but in general, they go a little bit further south. They don't like it where it's too cold for the winter. You might also still have some common grackles hanging around. And if that is the case, you can also always feed safflower seed. A lot of people switch to safflower seed in the spring when these birds first start coming back. And just like right now, they're migrating, they're super hungry, so they can eat a lot of food. So if you've got them raiding your bird feeders, if you switch to the safflower seed, they don't really like it. So you're not going to get those huge flocks of blackbirds like you might be getting right now. Same with European starlings. They don't like the safflower seed either. So if you've got these huge flocks of blackbirds, try the safflower seed. You don't want to mix it with anything. You want to just feed it straight up, because if you mix it with too much, the birds will just throw the safflower on the ground as they do and go for the other seeds that you might have in your feeder. So you want to just switch it out totally to safflower and see how it makes a difference. I've also noticed that the sparrows don't like it as much. So if you have big flocks of sparrows, that can help keep them away. It's not 100%. I still get sparrows coming to my safflower feeders, but I get maybe 5 or 6 coming instead of those huge masses of like 50 and 60, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with and get here and there in your yards. So safflower is always good. As the blackbirds tend to leave and go south for the winter, then you might want to switch back to another seed blend. Like our chickadee blend is super popular. That has safflower in it, but it also has peanuts. It has black oil sunflower seeds. So it has a really good diversity of foods in there. It really has something for any kind of bird that's going to come to a seed feeder. So that's our chickadee blend. That's our #1 blend. Can't go wrong with that. But if you are getting some of these, quote unquote, troublesome birds this time of the year, the safflower seed can help kind of keep their numbers down. Plus, the safflower seed is the favorite of some of our more favorable, I guess you could say, backyard birds like cardinals. The cardinals absolutely love the safflower. That is their favorite out of anything else. If you happen to get things like evening grosbeaks passing through, which are quite rare, but some people do get them, they love the safflower seed. Birds like house finches, purple finches, they all absolutely love it. So you can still get a pretty good diversity of birds coming to the safflower. It can take them a little bit of time to get used to it, but they do get used to it and they will come. So you can get some pretty neat birds coming. The other thing about safflower seed is that squirrels don't really like it. So it can keep them away as well. And there's other things you can do to keep squirrels away. If you don't have a squirrel-proof feeder, that is a fantastic way to keep the squirrels out. This is one called the Squirrel Buster, and we sell a whole bunch of Squirrel Buster feeders. That's our best-selling line of bird feeders at this point. They come in different sizes, but they work really well. They all operate on weight. So how they work is that the squirrels are so much heavier than the birds. When the squirrels sit on that feeder, depending on which feeder you get, there's a mechanism that will shut down the feeder so the squirrels can't feed from them. The squirrels are just that much heavier than the birds. Birds are mostly feathers, their bones are hollow, so they don't weigh that much at all. So you can get several birds on a feeder, but as soon as you get one of those squirrels on there, these feeders shut down and the squirrels are denied the bird seed. So if you're looking for a squirrel-proof feeder, that is the Squirrel Busters. You can't go wrong. And what's nice about a squirrel-proof feeder is then you can hang it from anywhere. You don't have to put up an elaborate system with baffles and make sure that the squirrels can't jump from one location to another to get to your bird feeder. So squirrel-proof feeders are absolutely wonderful for that. And that's really the simplest thing you can do if you're just starting out and you're looking to get your first bird feeder. I would absolutely just go right for a squirrel-proof feeder because most people end up getting one anyway because of the squirrels. That being said, there's other things you can do to keep squirrels off your feeders. Things like this hot sauce. We have people who will mix this hot sauce in with the seed that they use already. This is called flaming squirrel. And the reason this works is because mammals have more taste buds than birds do. So the mammals can taste that there's this really hot sauce on the seed, but birds don't taste it. So squirrels will take a bite of this and they run away. Same with deer. If you have deer at your feeders, especially overnight, people will find that their feeders are totally drained from something. It could be flying squirrels, it can be raccoons, it can be deer, whatever it is, this will help keep them away. So you can get just the sauce and mix it in with your seed. Or what most people are doing now is just going for the seed that already has it on there. So this is kind of like the newest trend in bird feeding right now is all of this hot seed. We have some called Flaming Hot Feast, which is this picture right here. We've got bigger bags now of 20-pound bags of the seed that's all pre-mixed with the hot sauce, so you don't have to do it yourself, which is super easy. Just fill your feeders and you're good to go. We also, if you've tried the hot seed before and haven't had very good luck with it, we now have a brand new one that just came in called Disco Inferno. It's twice as hot as any other bird seed that's on the market. So it looks it too. It looks pretty gnarly, and that'll absolutely keep the squirrels off. So we've got a whole bunch of different options for you. And of course, we have things like baffles and things like hardware you can put on your feeder poles or your shepherd's hooks to keep those squirrels off as well. So one thing you can do is, if you already have a bird feeding system and you're trying to squirrel proof it, take a picture of it and bring it in, and we can help with that to kind of show you what you can do to help keep the squirrels off. As far as the birds you can expect in your backyard, though, if you've got your feeders up, there is going to be a good diversity of backyard birds that we'll have here year round, kind of the usual cast of characters. We've got some birds that stay here all year round that are common in backyards, and here are some of them. Mourning doves. This is a screenshot from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology's bird feeder cam, which we usually run here at the store. And there's a nice big flock here of mourning doves. You can expect those in your backyard all season long. And then dark-eyed juncos are coming back. So this is south for them for the winter, and they are starting to return. So just like your hummingbirds and orioles are going south for the winter, so do the dark-eyed juncos. And this is south for them. So they are making their return back to the area. And fox sparrow are migrating through. So this is a type of bird you might get in your backyard. Not a super common feeder bird, but they are known to come to backyards and hang out underneath feeders. I've had one in my backyard before that at least I've seen. And they also like being under shrubs, and they kind of flick around the leaves just like a northern flicker would to get seeds and bugs and that kind of a thing. So they are migrating through. So keep your eyes out for fox sparrow. They're significantly bigger than your common house sparrow, and they tend to be on the ground. So you would absolutely notice the difference between this and a different type of sparrow in your backyard. They're big, they're very orangey in color, and they've got that gray face. And then there's things like white-throated sparrow. This is much more common of a backyard bird this time of the year. Again, migrating through. We'll have them here all winter long. And then there's white-crowned sparrow. So underneath your bird feeders this time of the year, you can get pretty good diversity of different sparrows. You might also see and hear Carolina wrens. They are still singing their little hearts out. I hear one usually every day, and they will come to feeders as well. They like suet, they like sunflower hearts, and these guys are cavity nesters, so they might use those roosting pockets. If you have those roosting pockets or roosting houses in your backyard, don't be surprised if you see little Carolina wrens popping in and out of those. As far as other feeders and seed that you can provide for birds in the winter, Niger is always good. We have a finch blend called Finch Favorite, which is super popular. It is a mix of Niger and ground up sunflower hearts, and that will get you more than just goldfinches. That can get you some other birds we have here in the winter, which I'll show you. As far as goldfinches go, which are probably going to be the most common thing you'll get to a Niger feeder, we have the American goldfinch, which is here all year. They don't go south for the winter, but they do molt their feathers before the winter, which is pretty uncommon. Most birds don't do that. And so in the winter months, the males aren't that bright gold anymore. They're more this drab kind of olive color. So they are here all year round. They're just not super bright gold. So in the early spring is when they start to molt again, and then they become that bright gold. But we do have them here all season. And then other things you might get at your Niger feeders are going to be birds like pine siskin. This looks like a goldfinch, but more stripy. They have a really sharp beak, and they do have more yellowish feathers, whereas the goldfinches have really dark colored feathers. So it's some ways to tell one another apart. We also some years have what are called common redpoll. This is one of those eruptive species that we don't have every year coming down, but then some years we have a whole bunch of them. I think it was 2020 was the last winter where we had a lot of them coming down. They were all over the place. They were coming to people's feeders. They were on pine cones, getting all the seeds from pine trees. It doesn't look like we're going to have an eruptive year for common redpoll this year. There haven't been any reported in the area yet this season, but keep your eyes out. You never know. Although it might not be an eruptive year for them, there might still be some around. So you might still get one or two throughout the year, at your bird feeders. And they're about the size of a chickadee. They've got that little raspberry kind of smudge on the top of their head. So they do look significantly different than other birds that you'll see at your feeders. And you can always put out peanuts. Peanuts are great for blue jays, of course. They love the peanuts in the shell. There's really not anything better you can put out for blue jays. If you ever put out peanuts in the shell, you have a very, very, very good chance of getting blue jays. You want to make sure it's on something that squirrels can't get to, because you also will have a very, very good chance of getting squirrels. But the blue jays love the peanuts in the shell more so than anything else. They'll also eat peanuts out of the shell, and they'll eat sunflower seeds, but this is their absolute favorite. And then as far as the peanut, what we call the peanut pickouts, the insides of the peanuts, you can get things like nuthatches, and we have a couple different species here. This is the white-breasted nuthatch, which are common year-round. And then there's also the red-breasted nuthatch, and this bird is more common in the winter months. And then this bird, actually, both species of nuthatches do exhibit eruptive behavior too, where there's some years where there's just a whole bunch more of them around. Red-breasted nuthatches are more susceptible to that, or they're more common to exhibit eruptive behavior, I guess I should say. So we have some years where there's a ton of red-breasted nuthatches, and then some years where there's just not that many. But that being said, we do have them here, especially more commonly in the winter. And if you ever go to Mendon Ponds on Birdsong Trail to feed the birds out of your hand, these are a couple of the species that you can get coming to your hand pretty commonly: the white-breasted nuthatch and the red-breasted nuthatch, especially if you feed them those peanut pieces, the inside of the peanuts, which are here on the right-hand side. They absolutely love that. If you're interested in doing that and going to Birdsong Trail, we actually give out free samples of our chickadee blend, and it has peanuts in it, and the birds go crazy for it. So you can always stop in here anytime, get a sample of that seed to bring with you to Birdsong Trail. Absolutely free. We always do that. Other birds that love peanuts are going to be chickadees. Chickadees love peanuts. They tend to grab the peanut, fly away to a branch, and then they hold it between their feet, just like this picture shows, and then they'll peck away at the peanut piece. But they absolutely love peanuts, and so do the tufted titmouse. So adding peanuts to your whole mix of birdseed options, or having a mix that has peanuts in it, can absolutely increase the diversity of birds you have in your backyard. And then finally, this time of the year, suet. You can't go wrong with feeding suet. Suet are these squares of fat. You can just put them in a super simple, it's called a suet feeder. If you've ever had a suet feeder, it might have just been a little cage, which you can find all over the place. You can find them probably at a grocery store if you wanted to. And we sell what are called paddle tail suet feeders most commonly. And if you look at these pictures, you can see they both have a little projection. Both of these suet feeders have a little projection at the bottom. The idea with those is that the woodpeckers will use that projection to prop their tail up against, and therefore they can be upright when they're feeding. So they'll cling on to this little cage part, and that prop lets their tail prop up against it so they can easily feed. If you just have one of those small cages that doesn't have a tail prop, some of the bigger woodpeckers, like the pileated woodpecker and the northern flicker that are in these photos here, they can have some trouble sometimes righting themselves, or just landing on it and being able to feed. They kind of flop around on it a little bit. So a tail prop feeder is absolutely the best thing you can put out for woodpeckers, especially if you have the really large pileated woodpecker, which is here on the right. We even have a feeder that's twice that size, twice that length for the pileated woodpeckers. If you really want to entice them to your backyard, that's the best thing you can put out. But absolutely, woodpeckers we have all year round, your common woodpeckers. The only one you might not see in your backyard in the fall and winter is going to be the yellow-bellied sapsucker, but they don't really come to suet feeders anyway, and they are migratory. So people have been seeing them in their trees, but not at their suet feeders so much. But you are most likely to see the northern flicker at your suet feeders this time of the year throughout the winter months. They're not super common coming to suet feeders in the spring and summer because they eat a lot of insects. But during those winter months, you will probably see some northern flicker, which is this bird on the left, on your bird feeders. So, oh, then of course, when you put out bird feeders, you also get the predators of the birds. So especially as the winter months get closer, food becomes more scarce and people start reporting birds of prey like the sharp-shinned hawk and Cooper's hawk coming to their backyards to get their songbirds. There's really not that much you can do about it um, because they're just out there. They're a natural predator. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing, but I understand that it can be upsetting to see, a bird or the remnants of a bird in your yard after being taken by a bird of prey. So if you're trying to kind of get the birds of prey out of your backyard, the best thing you can do is just get rid of the food source. So take down your feeders for a few days. The birds will scatter and go elsewhere, and so will the bird of prey. And then you can put your feeders back up. It might be kind of a game that you have to play throughout the winter months to kind of keep the birds of prey away, but it comes with the territory. But they are just natural predators of songbirds. And we do have, if you're having issues with window strikes, we do have window decals to help with that. Window strikes alone are estimated to kill about 1 billion birds every year, which is a staggering number. But you can help in your own house by putting out window decals. And our best sellers are these from a brand called Window Alert. And how they work is you put them on the outside of your window and they reflect UV light, and birds can see in the UV spectrum. So if they're flying around, they can see that there's something there. They can see that there's something on the glass, and they know that there's a barrier there, so they won't run into it. So these are our best sellers. We are also about to carry a brand called Feather Friendly, which is ranked very, very highly at preventing window strikes. Those come in long strips and they're little polka dots. We'll have those next week. So those are going to be a brand new product for us. I'll promote them a little bit more once we have them in stock and out on the sales floor. But I know they're ranked super highly by American Bird Conservancy, so we made sure to get those in the store too. So if you do have window strikes though, we have quite a few different options already in stock on decals you can put on your window to keep that from happening. So that is everything I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching. It looks like some people are on, but there's no comments or questions today. So looks like I am off the hook, and we'll be back on Tuesday with another broadcast. Until then, if you've got any bird photos, absolutely send them in to us. If you are in the Rochester area, pop on in to see Birds of Prey from Wild Wings. They'll be here at 11 until 1. And then if you're in for a drive, check us out tomorrow at out in Honeyway at Birdhouse Brewing for their Give Cancer the Bird 5K fundraiser. So it'll be a busy weekend here, and we're open. We're open until 6 o'clock today, which is Saturday, and we're open 9 to 5 on Sundays. So stop on in and come in and see us and get all the supplies you need for your birds this fall, and we will be here for you. So we'll be back on Tuesday with another broadcast, and until then, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon.